Hi everyone, it's Rob Watson, the module leader for TECH1502 Introduction to Community Media. This is the overview summary of the lecture, which is the 21st lecture in our series of lectures. Not long to go now, we can see the end post coming up quite quickly. In the meantime, we have to be planning for our final piece of coursework, which is a academic report that you're going to write. So what I thought I'd do with this lecture is to run through some tips and some of the kind of thinking that we might need in order to develop and produce a competent and capable academic piece of writing. So the idea, well, as far as that's possible, I suppose. So the idea is to recap on some of the issues that we talked about the previous week in week 20, and really to look at the idea of what kind of this word dispositions, what kind of stance we might need to take in order to be able to ask questions about different types of media, community media use. And these range from things like having an open mind, having a trust in the process of thinking and kind of critical reflection. How do we can reason in different ways, we can think in different ways. What would be an effective way for us to think through the challenges of community media based on, if you like, our personal experience or what's been written or what's we see in the media that we consume. So our primary, I suppose, impulse is to be well informed. But in the same time, we want to be flexible to alternatives. So we want to don't want to dig our heels in and say that this is the only way to do something. Kind of be a bit more fair-minded and a bit more prudent about the way that we are informed by our own biases. So we come from and we learn and we are part of a community of practice and a knowledge community and a physical community. So that tells us something about ourselves, who we are here and now. And it's very important that we acknowledge that in a kind of reflexive way, as long as we're able to work through that and be open to change. So this is all in aid of us being able to approach different kinds of problems. So if we're going to use the academic process and we're going to trust the academic process to come up with something which is useful for us, then we have to kind of be clear about the kind of questions that we're going to ask. We have to think about the kind of way that we'll manage complexity. So is there a kind of sense of order that we're looking to establish? Are we diligent in the way that we research and we seek information? Are we citing the right kind of information? Are we clear about the kind of sources? Have they got authority? Have they been double checked? We're not just using things which is thrown out as a kind of a joke or a kind of a corruption of communication. So our diligence is kind of going to be quite important about this. Are we applying reasonable criteria? These are kind of good questions for us to focus on because we need to be able to take care on the way that we apply the questions and the investigations that we're going to undertake. And it's going to get difficult. This is not an easy process. So how do we persist through some of these difficult questions? And how do we make sure that we're kind of quite precise in what we produce, so that we're not kind of distracted by lots of different topics? And that's one of my failures, one of my flaws is I've a million things going on in my head at one time. How do I settle down and fix on one set of activities and come up with something useful as a kind of answer? So the report process is a way to deal with that. It's a way of putting in place a more sustained way of thinking, where we're extending our thought process to be maybe more than conversational, if you like, to be something which is kind of built up and sustained. There's layers of varnish being applied here. This isn't just kind of a quick fix and we're off. This is kind of something which we want to last and is durable. So there are some questions that we can ask. Who's going to read our reports? How will they use it? How will the people who read the reports extract information? How are they going to make sense of the information that's in there? And what are they going to gain from it? So this means that we have to think about the way that we structure a report into sections and subsections. We're going to have to think about the kind of numbering. We're going to have to think about the kind of style that the report is presented in. And really kind of, people don't read reports. Sounds daft to say, I'm not going to read your reports. No, I'm going to mine it for information. I'm going to look for the useful things. And somebody reading it, somebody working with it, wants to pull out the useful information. Now, our job is to create a report where that helps the reader to be able to make sense of the issues that they're concerned with. But the evidence that we're basing it on has to be verifiable. So what kind of sources are we looking at using? Are these kind of direct observation from our own experience? Is it qualitative data? Is it quantitative data? Is it reported or secondary kind of forms of information that have been collected from, say, desktop studies? Is it information that we've brought together from different forms of multimedia, which is a very accessible way to bring content to a report? So tying this into a kind of writing style and the formal requirements of a writing style, it'll help us to think about the kind of structure and the approach and making it accessible, making it plain language, if you like, whether it's going to be a technical kind of report or a more narrative-based report where we're telling stories through the report. And then we'll look at the kind of the reference and citation management process. I'm going to use the APA reference process. I know the standard university reference process is Harvard. They're both very similar, but there are some differences. APA is included in Microsoft Word, so I'm kind of a bit easier with using that one. But how do we cite illustrations? How do we cite books, media forms, articles, figures and tables, that kind of stuff, and how do we put together our reference list? Finally, we'll look at academic practice and the challenges of plagiarism, and kind of how we steer away from how do we make sure that we're not going to pass off somebody else's work of our own, either with intent or by accident. It can happen by accident, and we have to be on our guard about how we do that. So yeah, lots to cover in the topic this week. The lecture notes are available on the DMU Commons wiki, and that's at wiki.our.dmu.ac.uk. There is a report which is available to read, which is a link to the New Voices report, which was a report that was produced about the access radio stations, which led to the formation of the community radio legislation that went through in the late 90s, and also the community radio toolkit. There's a link there for that. You might find these useful in terms of helping you to kind of produce and plan content for your future work that you produce with us next year on these modules next year. So a lot of information to get through. I will see you at the lecture on Tuesday.